So the date has been set, John. Elon Musk will be in Delaware at the Chancery Court battering the shitbird. How are you?
I did not know that. I didn't know they had a date already. So that's exciting.
Date with Destiny. I wonder if members, I don't know much about Chancery Court in Delaware. I wonder if, like regular court, members of the public can go. I'll try to find out. Maybe we can cover it somehow. But I want to make sure that people know in 30 minutes, John, you and I are going to be doing a deep dive into all this information we're about to present on our sponsor exclusive segment that people can join us for on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. People also can get the full John Cullen experience by subscribing to the totally free and extremely excellent John E. Hoover YouTube channel. This is John's channel where he's publishing his bedtime stories and a lot of his classic, historic, the legacy videos from the Las Vegas investigation. They're all here. So people are going to want to get onto the John E. Hoover YouTube channel, not to be mistaken for the simulcast channel controlled by me, which is John Cullen Investigates. People can join us for the simulcasts of the live shows every Friday. What are we going to be talking about tonight, John, on Subscribestar and Patreon?
Well, I like Elon Musk quite a bit, and he and I have similarities in our personalities and the way we speak and things like that. And I think we think alike on certain topics. And I'm a bit concerned for the guy because he talked about spending $44 billion originally. The board, you and I were laughing because the board was all excited about that offer, right? And they were, oh yeah, well, we'll take that. We'll take $44 billion. And you and I were like, yeah, well, that's if they've got 5% bots or whatever. And then they started the investigation. The wheels fall off the bus and they're headed to court. And so, I've been using Twitter now, thanks to you getting me back on this thing. You encouraged me to get back on Twitter and said, you really should have your stuff on there. And so I went through whatever it took us to do that. And I guess I've been on Twitter now since October of last year. And
I don't know why this doesn't say you're permanently banned. This account is permanently banned. I can't like anything or tweet anything.
Interesting that it comes up at all. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, it lets you look at it in a passive mode, but it's permanently banned. People should follow you on there, John. You've got lots of great tweets, and you're definitely inciting discussion.
Well, I've got a little over 4,000 followers on Twitter.
Excellent.
And that's in about 9 months or whatever it is. October of last year. And something happened on Twitter in the last 48 hours.
What do you mean?
The audience, so something significant happened, and we're going to get into that now. We're going to talk about So we'll look at the shadow banning aspect of it, and then we're going to look at some big names on Twitter, and we're going to see what happened. And the concern and sort of the title and the gist of the show is the software working properly at all at Twitter? In other words, is the Twitter business model / software enterprise, is this working the way it was intended? Is this, in other words, if this system were running something else, like let's say a magazine subscription business, right?
Yeah.
Everybody remembers magazines, right? Once upon a time, there were these things called magazines, and people would subscribe to these magazines. And there were magazines like Road and Track, Car and Driver, Popular Science, Popular Mechanics, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, New York Magazine. They were all in all these different magazines. And you would subscribe to a magazine for $12 or $20 a year, $15 a year, whatever it was. And when you subscribe to the magazine, they would send you the magazine in the mail. And every
Right.
month you get a new copy of Car and Driver, Motor Trend, Popular Mechanics, Popular Science, Harper's Bazaar, Vogue, Vanity Fair. These were the magazines that, I kind of grew up around, right? And then there were the ones you hid from your parents, which we can't, we're not going to talk about that because this is not a naked yoga show. So if you look at this magazine model and then you say, okay, so they had all these subscribers to their magazines, and then we take that model over to Twitter. We're going to explore that tonight with our patrons and ask, well, wait a second. If you've got 4,000 followers on Twitter and you send out a tweet, why would those 4,000 people not see your tweet?
They're not getting the magazine.
Didn't they ask Twitter? Didn't they say, hey, I'm clicking on this to let you guys know I want to see what this person has to say? They're subscribing. And then Twitter says, yeah, no. Our magazine has got, 4 million subscribers. Now, we only actually mail out 20 copies.
What about the advertisers in the magazine? This used to be my favorite magazine, John. 1987. I was reading this.
You see how this has ramifications, Jason?
We might see Lee Stranahan ad in this magazine.
Really? This is the Commodore Amiga.
This is how
magazine.
I first heard of Lee Stranahan. He made videos about how to use animation software on this computer. And I think he used to have classified ads in this magazine.
Impressive.
And this is the company that he eventually worked for.
I want to see photos of Lee. I want to see 1987 photos of Lee with long hair.
We've shown him already on High Dive with Lee Stranahan. Him and Kenny running the seminar in New York. Anyway, we don't need to look at this right now. But you're right. They're lying to the advertisers. They're lying to the users. That's the allegation.
Why would you not? In other words, if I have 4,000 something followers on Twitter, why would you not send the things I tweet to the people who've said, I'd like you to send those things to me?
Right.
It would be like a magazine saying, no, I know you subscribed to the magazine, but we're not going to send you every issue.
Or every page.
Yeah, we're just going to send you, catch as catch can. We'll send you an issue here or an issue there. So we're going to dig into this and look at a real specific thing. And for those let's go to the deck and real quick, let me introduce myself to any new viewers of yours who are coming over from Lee's show or Charles's show and haven't seen us do anything before. I'm one of the
David
geographic or David Hawkins. I'm one of the geographic information system pioneers. 34 years ago, working with a group of guys at ESRI, we put together this capability to map data. And it's called Geographic Information Systems. ESRI is sort of the leader in the field, and the system that we put together then became kind of the benchmark. And the map that you see here is the simulation that I built for Laura Ingram, I think in April of 2020. So, so I was using the tool to create a simulation of the outbreak, and I sent her this. So
Epicenter.
Yes, and this was sort of very early stages, and just sort of an indication. This is kind of the world I came from. So I am a professional cartographer and one of the pioneers of geographic information systems.
So ESRI is a company separate from Oracle. They brought the mapping technology. Oracle brings the database technology, and you're talking about the stuff that was used to integrate these things.
Correct. So that was the project. So before we all got together, their mapping didn't have the kind of data capabilities that it does today. Today, it's
people in the comments are telling us, John, they have to search Twitter to find you.
Right.
And they rarely come up on the feed.
So if you're not logged in to Twitter, so if you log out of Twitter, I don't come up. And that's one of the things that's a little strange. So again, tonight's show is to serve as a bit of like a warning to Elon Musk as a software professional, as someone who has worked in the field my entire adult life until the last 5 years. I'm seeing things in the system that make me wonder Is this thing worth half of what he offered?
Yeah, right.
And so we're going to look into that. We're going to look into that, because if it's not what it claims to be, well, then what the
What
heck
is
is
it?
it? We're
Yeah.
going to strip it down, and we are going to strip it down. So I want to share with our YouTube audience kind of the backstory as to what the hell happened here, what's going on. And it kind of begins with a tweet that came from Chris Palco. Chris Palco is one of our viewers, and Chris Palco let's see, what did he do? He responded to a tweet. Hang on, I want to pull it up so I can be real specific for you.
Not
He
this?
responded. No, that came afterwards, so hang on to that for a second. All right, so Chris Palco, let me pull up the window here and tell you what happened. All right, so there was a tweet from a woman whose name is Marianne Damasi. She's a PhD, and Marianne Damasi sends out a tweet, and she names Martin Kulldorff, Vinay Prasad, Vaccine News, a bunch of people in this tweet. And she says in October 2021, the FDA authorized a change in the formulation of Pfizer's mRNA COVID-19 vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds. And she continues, blah, 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 blah. Well, this was the addition of the tris buffer. You know, we talked about this. We read this on the air, and this was
The
tris
new Big Mac formulation.
No. So the tris buffer is it is a sugar type thing. It's like a glucosey kind of thing that they put in vaccines, and for the children, for the pediatric dose, they added this buffer called the tris buffer. And you and I talked about this a while ago. So this woman who's a PhD sends out a tweet about this, and she names a bunch of big names. Well, what happens coming after that, after her tweet, Chris Palco, who's one of our viewers, one of our supporters and patrons and all that, is in Australia. And he's been one of the most vocal viewers that we have on Twitter. So he understands that whole lasagna thing that I talk about, right? Where I make the lasagnas, right? And I keep throwing the lasagnas up the stairs.
Yeah.
He takes he takes the lasagnas and runs with them, right? And he takes my tweets. He takes the tweets that I make and the charts and all that stuff, and then he tweets it out and calls out a whole bunch of people in Australia, the Prime Minister, the head of the health ministry in Australia, and US people at the same time, and asks kind of the obvious question. So he's been very vocal on Twitter. So he responds to this Marianne Damasi and Martin Kulldorff, and he calls in 12 other people, including some other big names. And he says in a very simple tweet 2 days ago, this was July 26th, come over to I Am John Cullen and be ahead of the game. We knew this 8 months ago. That was it. That was his tweet. And he forwards my tweet from November 7th of 2021. On November 7th of 2021, I tweeted out that the FDA authorized some manufacturing change, and it was an FDA release. It was like an FDA story from the FDA, right? So November 7th, I tweeted this thing out. Chris Palco sends out this tweet, tells everybody, oh, you should come follow John Cullen. We were talking about this 8 months ago, back in November last year. All right, so as a result of that, I see all this and said, yeah, I broke this, a while ago. And now we pick it up with where you are in the deck. So I said, and Jay Bhattacharya, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford University, follows me.
Look at that.
So this is yesterday. Or 2 days ago. This is July 27th at 9
Be nice to him.
I'm very nice. So my response to him was, as the CDC's been focusing on pediatric use of the inoculation, I've been focusing my energy on pediatric COVID deaths by state so that we can get a better understanding, right? So I send them a bunch of data, stuff like that. All right, let's go to the next slide. I don't want to get too specific, right? All right, so he follows me. Now, who is this guy? If you're not familiar with him, he's both that's Stanford University's, whatever. I don't know where that is, actually. He's a professor at Stanford. He's both an MD and a PhD, right?
Oh, look, no more lockdown. Keep schools open.
So that's his perspective.
We like this
coming
guy.
out of Stanford, right? And he's been rather vocal, and he has over 200,000 followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
All right. So that makes him kind of a big name. And then
Big
when
bird.
you look at who follows him, Dr. Peter McCullough, Aaron Siri, whole bunch of other big names follow Jay Bhattacharya. So now Jay Bhattacharya is following me. I respond back after asking him to follow me. He says, done. And so this was the tweet. You see the tweet at the top here. It says, I reported this a long time ago. Maybe you should follow me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
that was my tweet.
Yeah.
And he said, done. Okay. So, but this is what I tweeted. I reported this a long time ago. Maybe you should follow me. Now let's go to the next slide.
And then you're showing the reformulation of the thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. So he follows me, 200,000 followers himself, professor at Stanford, MD. Now go to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So I send him some more stuff about the formulations, because they were talking about the tris buffer. This Marianne Damasi, the PhD, was talking about the pediatric formulation with the tris buffer. But you and I have already looked at the trimethamine and all the other stuff. So I sent him a bunch of content. Let's go to the next slide. The audience knows this content already. And this is a little bit later. We'll get to this is another part of the story. Let's keep going. Next slide. Okay. Keep going. More data. Bang. Okay.
Misleading. Oh, wait a minute. So, but that's been there for a year. And only after he follows you, they say that?
So this happens like immediately after he follows me.
Wow. But why is it misleading? You're just tweeting exactly what the CDC or the FDA put out.
Well, let's break down my tweet. I reported this a long time ago. Did I not? Yes, I did. November 7th, 2021. Maybe you should follow me. Is that the misleading part?
Yeah,
or
maybe.
I reported this a long time ago. So this is what I mean. Is Twitter broken? Which part of Twitter thinks this is misleading? If this is their AI, it's broken. No, if this is an employee, well, if it's an employee, they're I can't say the employee is broken, but which part of this would be misleading? I reported, did I not? It's right here. There's the tweet right below it. And
listen, there's a lot of people who interact with Twitter. Specifically, we're hearing these things coming out now. There's a lawsuit against Nita Jankowicz and a bunch of other people from the state attorney generals of, I think, Louisiana. I could have that wrong. But they're suing her for telling Twitter to take stuff down in violation of the First Amendment. And there's no doubt in my mind that the people who set that all up have some fancy legal strategy for how they're going to say, no, it wasn't the government telling Twitter to do that, because what the attorney generals are trying to do is, if the government tells a private organization to do something and they do it, they are considered legally a government actor. And if they say, take down John's tweet, they are violating your First Amendment rights.
My. That could be an expensive mistake if I get the right attorney, and I have some good attorney friends. Let's go to the next page, and let's go to the next slide in the deck, because it gets worse. So first they label this misleading.
Oh, why did they do that? But what happened? What did you tweet?
I violated the Twitter rules specifically. So let's get specific. Specifically, the policy on spreading misleading and potentially harmful information related to COVID-19. Okay. So this is what they send me. Now let's go to the next slide. They limited my features. This is a first for me. So here is the tweet that made them lose their minds. Okay. As a result, we added a label. I reported this a long time ago. Maybe you should follow me.
What's misleading about that?
Elon, Twitter's broken, my friend. You don't want to buy this. I don't care if it's $2 billion.
Terry Voigt says it's because he had a lot of followers. But why would somebody else having a lot of followers make something you tweeted wrong?
This isn't software. This
Right.
isn't software.
People. It's people interacting with the tweet saying, "Oh, this guy's gaining traction.
And you don't
knock
want
it out."
this. Now,
Right.
right. So Elon, the point here is that if you pay $1 billion for this, and this is how it works,
You've wasted $1 billion.
You basically, you're buying like a teardown. You're going to have to completely redo this thing. Almost like, building a Truth Social or building a Getter, right? You're going to have to rebuild it, because this is just I reported this a long time ago. Maybe you should follow me is potentially dangerous. And now they've labeled my work. They've labeled my work accordingly. They've said that my work is misleading.
Yeah.
That sounds like libel to me. If
the
they've
problem
published
is, though,
this warning. Yeah.
So look, the problem is the CDA 230, it gives them the right to do this, and you have no recourse. Where Alex Berenson came pretty close to suing Twitter, but then he settled with them, and they just gave him his Twitter account back.
Well, he did sue Twitter, and they settled.
Well, he sued them, but every single claim got dismissed except for a claim based on the violation of something called promissory estoppel, where a Twitter executive had communicated directly with him and said, "No, these tweets are fine. We're not going to take them down." Then, without a notification of policy change, they deleted his account. And so, because Twitter had made a promise to him specifically and then broke it, he was allowed to move forward with the lawsuit on those grounds. And it was such a rare opportunity, he blew it. Because Twitter settled that right away, because they don't want anybody looking at their communications related to how they do stuff like this. And he blew it.
It's getting out now. So the story just broke recently about communications between the White House and the social media companies, right? This is breaking news. It's just coming out. And the question is, if they're going to enforce their community standards in a manner that's this won't pass muster. In other words, if we were to put this in front of a grand jury and a bunch of peers, they would look at this and say, this is unreasonable. This is absurd. This is absurd. Even if you have your own rules at Twitter, there's nothing about this that is misleading. In other words, the things that they said it was, if you go back one slide, what did they say this was? And they put a label on it. This is the scarlet letter. I'm the adulterer of the modern age. I have to wear the scarlet letter now. Right? It's misleading and potentially harmful, Jason. Potentially harmful. Something could happen to you. If you listen to me, though, if you listen to me, something bad could happen to you. That's what potentially harmful means.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Well, we're
Jason.
almost out of time here on YouTube, John. And I mean, you're zeroing in on the main reason why we've created and focused so much on this direct-to-sponsor, direct-to-viewer sponsorship model that basically flies in the face of traditional, television and motion picture entertainment, where normally, people are watching TV for free and there are ads, or in the new system, you pay Disney or you pay Paramount and you still get ads. Here, the viewers are the customers. My main issue with news coming to you from a corporate sponsor is that the corporate sponsor can turn off that sponsorship, and that is going to inherently give them influence over the news. When people who are the viewers are the direct sponsors, they know that the information that we are giving is for them, not some giant company that's paying us money. So I hope people will join us in 5 minutes on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen or patreon.com/IamJohnCullen and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I got one more question for you, John, before we go, because a lot of people, I don't think we're going to talk about this on the sponsor exclusive segment, but a lot of people have been talking about perhaps the Joe Biden administration making some overtures to exchange some kind of dangerous weapons dealer for a basketball player who voluntarily broke the law. I just did a little bit of research myself to find out how many people are in prison for maybe 10 years or more for marijuana possession in the United States, and the number is huge. There's more than 10 people in jail for life on nonviolent marijuana possession charges in the United States. How can Joe Biden or anybody whose salary is paid by U.S. taxpayers justify making an international incident out of an irresponsible, selfish person who broke the law of another country when they aren't even letting people in this country out of jail for the same offense? What do you think about that?
I think you just defined Miss Griner's platform when she gets home. That's what she needs to do, is to take
I don't
what
think they should
happened
let
to
her
her.
out.
Well, if they do, and she comes home, you just defined her platform, which is if there's, thousands of people still serving time for these types of offenses, and she was able to get flown home, what about these guys who are still in cells? There's men and women still serving all over the country, as you just pointed out, serving time for something that's now being sold out of trucks in New York City on 6th Avenue.
Right.
So,
But keep in mind that our laws aren't their laws. This is interesting because just this morning, Russia was saying, no, we haven't spoken to anybody. This is all just crap in the news. And now they're saying that Blinken called up Lavrov. The United States of America right now is relying on social engineering to do foreign diplomacy. It's absurd.
Well, does
but
anybody
we're out of
take
time.
Blinken's phone calls? Yeah, nobody takes Blinken's calls. So
I can't believe they are.
I don't.
People
I
are going
don't
to join
blame
us for the
Lavrov. I don't
sponsor
blame him.
exclusive segment in 3 minutes. Join us over there on